How we doing, everyone? Welcome back to the final edition of this year's 2022 PGA DFS Pick Show for your boys here at FSI. This is me, TK Nation 47. It is John Cool 19. John, it is the final video of the year. That is not the final tournament. We do have the Tour Championship next week, but only 30 players in the field. Really hard to come away with 5 picks each, although we could. Just doesn't give you much value to sit here and listen to us, you know, give you pretty much a third of the field.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a different, scope of it. But with this, we got 70 players in the BMW Championship. So it'll be the final one of the 2022 season. As I said, John, are you excited for this week? And what do you have planned for your DraftKings?
So definitely an exciting event. We got a new course this week, new to the PGA Tour. That is always kind of exciting and a lot of unknowns. We were kind of discussing before the show just what route do we go? I think there's kind of a pretty obvious lean in the industry for how this course might play, and then trying to figure out if we want to follow that when it comes to trying to play some GPPs or be a bit different, and what can we do to do that. I think that's kind of the focus when it comes to the BMW Championship this week. If you're playing cash, a lot of guys I think are going to have very high ownership just based on no course history, no real understanding of exactly how the course is going to play. So I think a lot of people are going to kind of go in the same avenue, looking at just form and a few stats that are key based on the flyovers. So we'll see kind of how that goes here. But yeah, really exciting. I think this to me is more exciting for an event to sit down on the couch and watch versus play a bunch on the markets or DraftKings. But certainly, I will still be playing. I am a degenerate and will not be able to avoid getting in this week. Next week, however, will be probably the lightest week of the entire year for me. I just don't get excited about that when it comes to DraftKings. I do want to know who wins. I'll watch it, but yeah, you're right. No reason to do a video and tout half the field. That's just silly.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Looking forward to watching these events as they come down to the stretch here. Before we hit into some of the senseless golf season of the swing season, hey, it's good for us to know some of the younger guys and get to know some of them Corn Ferry grads, new guys on tour, or
Yeah.
maybe some of the Euro guys, and they're wrapping up their season. They'll still have events as well, but that's a story for a different day. We're here to talk about the BMW Championship. So, John, give us a little bit of a breakdown of this course. As you mentioned, there's a industry wide lean on the course. Go ahead and tell us about it.
Sure, agreed. So this is the Wilmington Country Club in Wilmington, Delaware, par 71, 7,500 yards with bent grass greens. So we're looking at a very, very long track. The fairways here are pretty narrow, kind of putting a bit more emphasis on it when it comes to off the tee numbers. But based on that distance on this, everybody's looking at drive distance this week as one of the very top stats. I think it absolutely comes into play just on the length. Anytime we get a course of this length and the fact that it's only a par 71, you absolutely have to consider that, as well as proximity from those longer ranges, 200 plus, or really the 175 to 200 as well. These are extremely large greens, the second biggest that they will see on tour this season, the 2022 season that is ending. The fairways are also kind of tree lined, so I'm putting some emphasis on fairways gained as well. But really, drive distance is going to be kind of that fact that everybody is going to hone in on off the tee numbers as well. I think par five scoring comes into play a bit, although they are kind of all over the place on distance, including some extremely long par fives. So if you want to kind of put that into your modeling, you can. But I think the fact that they're all kind of significantly different in distance, I'm not putting too emphasis on one length of par five, but I think that's where absolutely the golfers are going to be able to score this week. If I had to guess, this is going to be a more difficult more difficult than average type course, something like the winner being 10 or 12 under par at best versus what we've seen the last really few weeks and in past BMW championships, where last year I think there was like 9 golfers who were 20 under or better. We're not going to have that this year based on what I'm looking at. The rough looks pretty darn difficult. There is quite a bit of sand. Water comes into play on about 4 of the holes this week. So I am going to look at bogey avoidance as well as just trying to put into my modeling scoring on difficult conditions. I don't see necessarily any wind factoring in this week. We'll see as we get into tomorrow if that changes at all. Maybe even a little bit of rain overnight on Thursday night into Friday. But again, that's too many days in advance to really kind of hone in on how that can affect things. Long par threes as well. There's a couple that are going to be over 200 yards this week, so you can plug that into your modeling if you like. But again, we're really speculating on a lot of this because there's just so much unknown. We haven't been here before. So any looks that you're kind of seeing any different than that this week going in?
Actually, John, I just made a bunch of notes. Yeah, you kind of helped me build the model as we went along here.
Sure.
So, yeah, only things I think I wrote down, three putt avoidance.
Okay.
You mentioned large greens. Anytime we hear about large greens, I like to mention, I like to throw in three putt avoidance because we're going to have a lot of long putts. So you could kind of take away, and if you wanted to go stroke game, short game, if you're using the Fantasy National Golf Club stats modeling, then you can use that strokes game, short game that kind of gives you around the green, and that putting. So that's something that you can always do. Maybe opportunities gained that gives you, some fringe built into the model, like guys that are stuck on the fringe, they kind of count that as, a strokes gained approach type of number. Those are always something I like to use. But yeah, I think, distance, obviously the very big key here. I just looked at ownership. I'm not going to lie. When I was making picks, I was strictly just looking at ownership because we're talking about a no-cut event. I want guys that have birdie upside for DraftKings scoring. No one's truly out of it this week until the final day. And then even then, you can still make a difference on a Sunday from way in the back. You can shoot 62 or something crazy, and
Sure.
it flips the whole leaderboard. So these no-cut events are very volatile. So ownership plays a big factor into who I play.
Agreed.
Okay. Yeah, let's get into it. Without further ado, the final picks of the year. John Rahm, going to be my off the tee specialist. John Rahm kind of speaks for himself. Like, everybody thinks he's in poor form. I kind of disagree. 5th last week, 34th at the Open, 12th at the U.S. Open, 10th at the Memorial. He's coming along in the second half of the year. He just had another baby. We go team baby swag, John Rahm, number 2. And 10-3, I think that's a crazy price tag. John Rahm, typically a high 11, low 11s, high 10K golfer. There's a couple of golfers that you're going to, we'll mention one, and there's a few others that are, higher than him in salary. So I just think John Rahm, the best player off the tee, should be one of the best here at this course where we factor in off the tee, 6th tee to green, and second in ball striking. The putter is starting to come around. So let's hope the lag putting is there for John Rahm, and he is able to finish strong. Your thoughts?
Yeah. But I definitely like the Rahm pick. I think you're right that a lot of people have this idea in their head that John Rahm is out of form. I don't really think that's true either. I think you make a great point. I think the biggest factor probably he hasn't played that much. And that kind of in people's head is he's not finishing high on leaderboards. But there's a big difference between taking some time off to spend with your family. You're about to give birth and then recently have given birth, wife, and then guys who are just not playing very well. John Rahm, I think, certainly fits the bill here for low own. You mentioned the pricing. I think that he would certainly be really close to that 11K number if Cam Smith had withdrawn before DraftKings did their pricing. So Cam Smith being the highest priced golfer, that just it messes everything up. Everybody would be at least 200 to 300 more. And that being said, we probably wouldn't have quite as many guys in the 10K. They'd spread it out just slightly, but also give the bump to Rahm and to the guy that I'm looking at here as my favorite, Rory McIlroy. So I think both are really underpriced just based on that Cam Smith being in the field, out of the field. And so I'm going to go Rory McIlroy as my favorite this week. 10-5, I think, is a really good number for him. He is the betting favorite. Now Cam Smith has withdrawn. He did miss cut last week, but if you really look at who missed cut, there's a lot of really good golfers last week who missed the cut. This is a completely different course. We're looking at a lot. The drive distance was not important last week. It was all about around the greens and being able to putt, as we saw with Zalatoris, being able to putt super, super well. helps to have a really good week, and then he was just ball striking like crazy. So, yeah, I see Rory McIlroy having a good bounce back this week. He has 6 top 15 finishes at the BMW. I know that's not at this course, but I think that kind of shows that course to course to course, he plays really well at this event in the playoffs. He's number 1 in drive distance over his last 50 rounds, 6th tee to green this season. But then I kind of mentioned earlier, I think it's going to play tough. So I did birdie or better as well as bogey avoidance on difficult scoring. He's number 1 in both of those categories. So not just avoiding bogeys, he is making a ton of birdies on these really difficult courses. I like that a lot. Number 1 in his last 36 rounds on par 5 scoring, 4th in ball striking, and 9th on approach. So I think there is a whole lot to like here about Rory this week. I think you could kind of go on, but even the putting, bent grass putting, he's really, really good. He's 6th in this field over his last 24 rounds on bent grass. So I could see a lot of good things happening for Rory. I think he has a good chance to win the championship this year, win this event or top 2 or 3, and then make a run at it next week. If I were picking the tour champion right now, give me Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, I think last week Rory was just kind of shaking the rust off. He had mentioned in the pre tournament interview that he hadn't touched a club in weeks. He didn't hit the gym in weeks. He kind of fell out of his routine after the loss on Sunday at the Open Championship. So I think last week was just his reintroduction to the golf, to the tour, to golf, back to the normalcy of his golfing life. So I think now getting back into the crunch time, we just had a players meeting for PGA Tour versus Live. So like all those juices reintroduced for him. So I think he's going to have enough motivation to carry him into the Tour Championship with, that a lot to prove. And plus, he wants to continue to play well heading into the Masters next year. He wants that major. He's, jonesing for that to get off his back. So I think Rory going to have plenty of motivation to get himself into the mix here for the Tour Championship. All right, value plays. I'm going to go with Corey Connors at 8,300, 50-1. Elite ball striker. He's in really good form too. Made the cut on the number at the Wyndham Championship, battled back, made sure he got himself into that top 20 range. And then last week, he made another cut. He finished 28th. So, he's a guy that's been working hard, working to get some good finishes. And he ended 28th at the Open Championship. So he's in decent form. Really good off the tee. We know he's the ball striker extraordinaire, 12th in ball striking. He does carry some decent distance, and he has putted relatively well over the last couple of weeks. I think 8,300 is not high enough for Corey Connors. I think he falls into that cash range. Probably will be the highest owned golfer I have this week. Although I could see some other players being picked in that 8K range, I still think Corey Connors safe option, no cut. Specifically love Corey Connors in those no cut events when I don't have to worry about the first round 76 completely burying Corey Connors. I know he can battle back. Taylor Pendleton at 7,400, 90-1. Really coming on since coming back from injury. We know he's a bomber. He's in really good form. As mentioned, 11th off the tee, 28th in ball striking, and 32nd in tee to green. He did finish 68th last week. I think he just kind of forgot, just said, whatever, I'm out of it. I can't putt right now. I'm just going to say, forget this event and move on to the next one, which is fine, especially when you're pretty much locked into that top 70. He was 13th at the Wyndham, 2nd at the Rocket Mortgage, and 13th at the Barbasol since returning to form. Now, I am concerned with how many weeks in a row he's been trying. I guess he missed the 3M and some other events, but he's played a lot of golf and he is coming back from injury. That would be my only concern. But I think Pendrith, hopefully the bomber aspect doesn't get drilled too hard, because I could see his ownership picking up as the week goes on, or hopefully everyone thinks that 68th was alarming and they back off. But we'll see. It's a player I'm monitoring as I go this week. Your thoughts on both?
Yeah, I like them both a lot here. Taylor Pendrith, I think you made a good point about him playing a lot. I think that for him, though, he knew down the stretch if he wanted to make a run in the playoffs, he had to start before the playoffs. He couldn't just sneak in right at 120th or something. He needed to build up a bunch of points to get there, and he did just that. And then just enough last week to kind of move on here. But I think that is the reason he played so many events, just trying to make sure he made a not just made the playoffs, but gave himself an opportunity to make this event and potentially next week. I will certainly be on some Taylor Pendrith this week. But for me, went with a couple of guys I think are going to probably be on the chalkier side of things. But I'm okay with that if you're looking for some values, especially on your cash lineup. If you are playing GPPs, not that you can't play these guys, but you're going to probably need to be different elsewhere than Joaquin Neiman. I think he'll be really popular here at 8,600. He's got a really good really good form going right now. He's made 10 out of his last 11 cuts. He was 13th last week, and it was his first event in a month ago. So he had a lot of time off and still came back and made that 13th last week. I like that. He's at 20th in distance in this field, 11th tee to green over the course of this season. And then again, looking at those difficult courses, he's 17th in bogey avoidance, 13th birdie or better. So I think he plays these hard courses very well. His last 36 rounds, he is 15th ball striking, 10th off the tee, and top 15 on that par 5 scoring as well. Looking at kind of what he has done recently, the last handful of events that he played, the irons, they're really hot right now. His approach has just been excellent. Although he's a good ball striker in general, the irons have been above average for him just the last few events. So I like that a lot going in this week. Another guy I think will probably be one of the chalkiest guys in the 7K range. That is Cam Davis. He's made 8 straight cuts. That form is absolutely noticeable as you're looking through the logs right now. No one else in that range has anything close to 8 straight made cuts. 4 of those are top 20 finishes. 13th last week. He is a long driver as well, 12th in this field. He's 17th when it comes to long term on on bent grass putting. And then I mentioned earlier the proximity from the long distance. He's 6th proximity from 175 to 200. He is 6th as well for proximity 200 plus yards. So I like that a ton. There's just you can go on and on about this guy. The par 5 scoring is really good. The approach is top 25. Off the tee is good. Ball striking. And then those long par 3s, he rates out really well there also. So he's basically checking all of the boxes for me. I will certainly have some Cam Davis along with probably the rest of the field when it comes to cash, and then maybe be able to mix him into some GPPs where my lineup isn't chalky all over the place.
Yeah, I think those are some really strong cash options, especially Neiman. We'll talk about him a little bit later. And Cam Davis has been in excellent form early on when we were playing him at the Rocket Mortgage and the 3M Open. I definitely could see him doing well with that long driver. Great with the long irons, as you said. Let's get into the sleepers. I'm going to go with Chris Kirk. I think everyone was burned by chalk Chris Kirk last week. Got a really sour taste and left in the people's mouths. So I think that's a good reason to jump back on. I think 6,700 is pretty criminal considering how well he was playing leading up into last week. Now, he didn't play the week before last, so I'm thinking maybe he was a little rusty with the putter. I saw some people struggle on the greens. The greens weren't that easy. These bent grass greens are going to be a little bit easier with, some of the rainier conditions we've had up here in the Northeast. I'm kind of both. I'm Midwest Northeast. I'm Northeast Ohio. So I kind of get all that lake effect rain passing through with that Midwest tag. So, but yeah, there's been some rain and some storms. So I think there's going to be a little bit easier putting greens. Maybe it's not going to breed some longer rough, but Chris Kirk is really good at finding fairways. He's a really good ball striker, 25th in the field, 16th off the tees, really good, surprisingly for this field, 14th tee to green, and 4th around the greens. So Chris Kirk, find the putter and, bring back a little bit of some of that luck, and I think he's going to be just fine. And if he's only going to be like 5% owned, I'm going to be all over it in that 6K range. Your thoughts on him and your favorite sleeper of the week?
Yeah, I'd probably play Chris Kirk way too often in general versus the field. I play him way more often. So I certainly will probably be going back there this week for Chris Kirk. But speaking of poor putting, let's talk about Brendan Steele here for a moment. Before I get into the good, I looked at three different putting stats: long-term Bermuda, more short-term, I'm sorry, bent grass, long-term bent grass, short-term bent grass, and then just fast and firm greens, which is kind of what we were expecting this week. There are 68 golfers. He finishes outside the top 65 in all three of those categories. That is so bad. But you know what? I think if he has just an average week this week on the putting surface, his ball striking can absolutely carry him to a top 20 finish. He is so good when it comes to the ball striking. He did miss the cut last week. He's got top 30 in 4 out of his last 6 events, though. So the last couple events, not great. Before that, doing a lot better. He's 15th fairways gained I tried to look at narrow fairways. He is very accurate when it comes to narrow fairway courses. Top 10 in proximity from those distances, the 175 to 200 and 200 plus. And he is 3rd off the tee the last 36 rounds, 7th on approach, number 2 in ball striking in my modeling. So I like everything there. And he's top 15 distance over his last 50 rounds as well. Again, though, the putting is just terrible. But if you make that like 0% in your modeling, he's going to finish like top 10. But if you put the putting into your stat models, which you should, certainly that tones him down a bit. But I think he can have an excellent opportunity at a really good week on a course that we don't know exactly how it is going to play. And with these enormous greens, maybe he's just able to fire at pins and get a bit lucky here on the putting surface. So give me some Brendan Steele this week at 6,200 on DraftKings, almost bare minimum price.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a good call, especially with the way he's been striking the ball. 6,200 too. Can't beat the price tag.
Right.
Okay. Last but not least, the one and done slide. I'm gonna go with Joaquin Niemann. Who are you going with?
Same for me. It was between him and Cam Young. I think everybody are playing Cam Young all over the place this week. He's probably going to be the highest owned golfer on DraftKings, probably the most bet golfer in the outright market as well. That tells me he's probably going to be the most popular golfer in one and done. If anybody has him left, which a lot of people do, I could see him garnering a ton of ownership. Give me Niemann. If we're looking at those two golfers side by side, this year Cam Young has been better, but Niemann's probably going to be a better golfer long term. I think Cam Young is going to be very good. He's going to win some events, but I think Niemann has the all-around game that is going to bring him more wins long term, better in the standings long term. Plus, if Cam Young isn't even on the PGA Tour next year, Joaquin Niemann will win in all of the events Niemann plays versus Cam Young because he won't be on the PGA Tour. I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but that is the rumor right now.
Yeah.
We'll see if that ends up true. But let everyone else get their one opportunity here at the end of this season to play Cam Young, and I will pass.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with Cam Young. I think some people are going to get some cold feet, especially with the way that PGA Tour and the players are starting to come together, talk about how things can get better for people that play golf worldwide. So I think Liv is going to get, the sales is just going to come right out from the sales, and we might have players come back if they let them, or we might have players that say they were going to go, not go. So we'll see.
Sure.
Tiger's getting involved, and now I think things are starting to change.
When Tiger gets involved, everything changes.
Exactly. All right. Well, that'll wrap things up for this year, or this week and this year. For the video side, we will be coming back in a quick 4 weeks, hopefully for some swing season action, if all things permit, if things are aligned for the both of us. But we will put an emphasis on trying to get you guys some of the video content that you guys might lack throughout the industry.
Sure.
So if you need an extra mouth and an extra listen, we will be your voice. All right, guys. Thank you for listening all year. Thank you for listening this week. Please like this video, comment below with any questions you may have. You can follow me on Twitter at TKNation47. That is John Cool19. John, good luck this week. Good run this year. We did a lot of good this year. Let's finish strong. Let's make the one and done payout. And I'm just like, I'm like literally like 200K out. All I need is a top 10, and I think I'm good. So top
Let's get
10,
it.
and we're in the money. So yeah, that'll wrap things up. Any final thoughts?
Nope, we'll have our cores and any weather and ownership ideas in our Discord. You can find that via our Twitter page or through our website. Certainly catch us there for last minute details tomorrow as we lead into lock.
Awesome. All right. Good luck, everyone, and enjoy the BMW Championship.
All right, good luck.